Test, test. 1, 2, 3. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Yeah, likewise.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Saying hi.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Priscilla Rojas, and I am the chair of the BPDA board. Thank you for joining September 18th, 2025. You might have a little bit of echo somewhere. Okay. Um, September 18th, 2025, Economic Development and Industrial Corporation of Boston board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is hosting public meetings in a hybrid setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. Hybrid means that our board meetings are conducted in person at City Hall in our boardroom here on the 9th floor and virtually via Zoom and Boston City TV. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 26, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. Now, if there's anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting, I ask that you please identify yourself now. Anyone recording? Okay, see, you just identify yourself. Sydney Scanlon. Do you need something else? Are you affiliated with that? Okay, cool. Great, thank you very much. Anyone else who's recording? Great. Please. Fair, thank you. Okay, so we're ready to start the meeting, and we'll begin with the roll call. Ms. Bennett. Here. Mr. Shepard.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
Mr. O'Malley.
Here.
And the Chair, Priscilla Rojas, is present. Okay, item number 1, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of August 14th, 2025 board meeting. Motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepard.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the Chair votes aye. Item number 2, request authorization for EDIC-owned properties to include a joint request for proposals with the City of Boston to seek bids relating to vending services in connection with the Sale 250 event in 2026. Lauren.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Shen. Sail 250 is a major maritime celebration marking the 250th anniversary of the United States. The event will bring tall ships from around the world to Boston Harbor. On Saturday, July 11th, 2026, more than 20 Class A tall ships and 5 gray hull Navy ship vessels are expected to participate in the Parade of Sail, a ceremonial procession through Boston Harbor that has historically drawn millions of spectators throughout the city. For Sail Boston 250, ships are expected to dock in the South Boston and the Seaport, with additional vessels stationed in other participating neighborhoods. From July 12th through 15th, ships will be open to the public for viewing. Over the past several months, staff has worked closely with Sail 250 Incorporated, Conventures, Massport, and many other of our city departments in planning this 250 tall ship event. Part of the event will include the sale of food, beverages, and merchandise to the tourists and sail enthusiasts who are expected to visit Boston. The City of Boston, through a Summer Event 2026 Vendor Supplier RFP, intends to engage a firm to coordinate and organize appropriate food and beverage vending service providers to provide food vending services on city and EDIC-owned land during the Sail 250 event. The city hopes to attract local and diverse businesses from the city to act as vendors. EDIC and BPDA properties are proposed to be vending locations. All fees received through this process would be contributed to the Fund for Boston Neighborhoods. The fund conducts educational, recreational, and artistic programs for residents and visitors to the city. The fund works through the city's Office of Arts, Tourism, and Special Events and is governed by a board of directors appointed by the mayor. We're asking today for permission to enter into an agreement with the city to participate in the vending program. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Very excited, but hearing and seeing that, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepard.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to issue an invitation for bids for arborist services on EDIC-owned properties in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year extension term options. Lauren.
Thank you. I'm before you today to ask for authorization to solicit bids for an arborist services at EDIC-owned properties in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Tree care work will be on an as-needed basis, authorized by staff through a work order process. The invitation for bids will be publicly advertised pursuant to Mass General Laws 30B, including advertising with local newspapers on the BPDA website, the state Combi system, Central Register, and through other channels as appropriate. The resulting contract will be awarded to the responsible and eligible bidder with the lowest total bid price. The awarded contract will be for a term of 3 years, with the BPDA holding 2 one-year extension options that may be exercised at our sole discretion. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? All right, here and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Item number 4, request authorization to issue a request for proposals for a contractor to provide outreach recruitment and career exploration services to support the Boston Climate Jobs Alliance. Jody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Jody Sugarman Brozan. I'm a deputy
One
chief.
second. Is someone listening to the board meeting on their phone? If you are, you can mute it or. Okay, we're just gonna give it a go.
Okay. My name is Jody Sugarman Brozan. I'm a deputy chief in the City of Boston Worker Empowerment Cabinet, which includes the Office of Workforce Development. And I am here today to request permission to advertise and issue a request for proposals for a contractor to provide outreach, recruitment, and career exploration services to support the Boston Climate Jobs Alliance. In August 2024, the Economic Development and Industrial Corporation was awarded $9.8 million for a climate-ready workforce grant from the Department of Commerce, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, for the City of Boston's Office of Workforce Development to create the Boston Climate Jobs Alliance, which is a coalition of 30 stakeholders, including training providers, educators, service providers, community engagement partners, climate experts, and employers. The Alliance work is aimed at filling approximately 1,200 jobs committed by 13 employers in family-sustaining, coastal, and climate-resilience occupations over the next 3 years. Workers trained through the Alliance are already being placed in jobs that help advance coastal resilience strategies. With this request for proposal, the Office of Workforce Development is seeking a partner with expertise in workforce development and community outreach to help build awareness, provide opportunities to explore career opportunities, and advance recruitment for the training and employment opportunities offered by the Alliance. The estimated contract amount of $120,000 over 3 years, with an option to renew for a 4th year if needed, will be supported by the Climate Ready Workforce Grant provided to EDC by NOAA. The RFP, if approved today, will be released on September 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Just such a big fan of the Boston Climate Jobs Alliance and all of the efforts here. But are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
All right, item number 5, request authorization to award $500,000 grant from previously accepted ARPA funds to BDC Community Capital and enter into a grant agreement outlining the use and conditions of the funds to support small business lending and financial assistance for Boston-based businesses, particularly those in neighborhoods vulnerable to displacement. Amina.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Shin, Madam Secretary. Sorry. We have a request before you to authorize a grant of $500K previously accepted ARPA dollars to go now to BDC Community Capital. We have the pleasure of having Chief Dole here, who will actually present a little bit more about the project.
Okay, thank you.
Well, hello, members of the board. Shagun Idawu, for the last 1,354 days and counting, I've had the pleasure of serving as the Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion for the City of Boston. So great to be here. Here to ask your support for an initiative to support small businesses throughout the city. To date, the EOI cabinet has been able to distribute more than $35 million to 1,500 plus small businesses across the city of Boston, across all 23 of our neighborhoods. More than 70% of those businesses owned by women and people of color. This is an initiative because those dollars have run out. Those were federal dollars we were able to use. We have this $500,000 in ARPA that we want to award to BDC Capital, which is a CDFI that is able to be more flexible with how they support small businesses to create a loan loss reserve program that will allow them to award a multi-million-dollar fund to small businesses across the city of Boston. So we're asking your support to provide this grant to them. They're already working with us on our SCALE program, which is a $10 million initiative to help build the capacity of small businesses to be able to bid on city contracts. We've already been successful in awarding many of our contracts to businesses owned by women and veterans and people of color, and this is another opportunity to support many of our businesses that are now struggling, unfortunately, with some of the economic turmoil across the world. happy to answer any questions on this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your work. We follow it closely. Very supportive and of this this use of our public funds and the strategy and the vision that you're executing here. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, just briefly, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief. Good to see you, and obviously fully support this. It's obviously such a part of the mayor's vision to support our local small businesses, the economic engine of any city. I'm curious, though, and this is probably worthy of a longer discussion, but given the fact that so many federal dollars that we've relied on are beginning to dry up, I'm curious what the approach has been with some of the recipients that have made very good use of these dollars that are getting more and more scarce, unfortunately. Has there been any preparation, discussion, sort of forecasting in terms of their budgets and support that they should receive from us?
The folks that are already receiving support or that
Yeah.
might receive? Well, I know, for instance, because even we get the question at some city council hearings of what are we going to do now that all these federal dollars are drying up? This is actually one of our efforts to leverage what federal funding we do have to expand our support. So rather than putting out a $500,000 program, we're going to support an entity that already lends money to leverage those dollars to give out many, many more than we could ever give out to be able to support. After that, we're talking with our philanthropic partners on what more we can do to build on programs that we launched in previous years.
Great. So this pool of money will be used for existing programs and sort of to help buttress it, and then figuring out opportunities to tap into the philanthropic community as well. Very good. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Amina. Thank you, Sagun.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 6, personnel. Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Shen. We have a number of items for your consideration on the EDIC agenda with the exact details included in the board memos. We have 3 contracts in the Office of General Counsel, Lisa Richardson; in the Director's Office, John Weil; in the Administration Division, Zachary Gagny. We have 1 internship in the Office of General Counsel, John Sauko; and we have 1 out-of-state travel request. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Just want to say welcome to the contractors and interns and appreciate you in advance of your work. But if there are no questions, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Okay, thank you, Mike. And that concludes the EDIC agenda items. I need a motion to adjourn the EDIC meeting.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Okay, we're moving on to the next section of the meeting. Thank you for joining the September 18th, 2025 Boston Redevelopment Authority Board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency safety and accessibility of Boston residents. Hybrid means that our board meetings are conducted in person at City Hall in the boardroom on the 9th floor and virtually via Zoom and Boston City TV. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 26, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It's also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. We have to do this again. So I ask if there's anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting to please kindly identify yourself now, just your name and affiliation. Thank you. Thank you and welcome. Okay, to begin this meeting, we will start with the roll call. Ms. Bennett.
Present.
Mr. Shepherd.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
Mr. O'Malley.
Here.
And I, the chair, Rojas. I'm here. Okay. Do we want to, before we start the meeting, we do have some elected officials and representatives in the room that we would like to, as is customary, give the opportunity to speak and testify about any project or matter before the board that they would like. So I invite you to come to the podium, and the floor will be yours. Whoever gets there first.
Ladies first. Thank you, Chair Rowehouse and members of the board. I submitted a letter outlining my concerns about the zoning amendment to a project coming up later about Plan Downtown, and I wanted to expand on a few key points here today. But I do just want to read the letter into the record for anyone who may not have seen the letter yet. So I wrote a letter on September 15th. Dear members of the Planning Board, I am writing to express my opposition to the current Plan Downtown zoning proposal, which is scheduled for review this Thursday today. I have raised concerns about elements of this plan for several months now, and my position has not changed. While downtown development is critical to Boston's growth, this proposal raises serious issues that must be addressed. First, building heights and historic preservation. The current plan allows towers up to 700 feet in areas west of Washington Street, including the ladder blocks and Park Plaza neighborhoods. These areas contain historic landmarks, national treasures, and culturally significant buildings. This height allowance departs drastically from existing zoning and threatens the historic character of these neighborhoods. Protections for these sites remain inadequate, and there is insufficient analysis of shadow, traffic, and infrastructure impacts. Second, affordable housing and equitable development. The plan still lacks enforceable commitments to on-site affordable housing, workforce housing, or middle-income housing. Boston faces a worsening housing crisis, and new development must contribute meaningfully to housing affordability rather than primarily benefiting developers. Thirdly, community input and transparency. For over 6 years, residents and stakeholders have participated in good faith planning efforts. Despite this, many voices remain unaddressed in the current proposal. I continue to advocate for a transparent, community-driven process and meaningful oversight to ensure that downtown development reflects the needs and values of the Bostonians. Impact on residents and public spaces. The lack of rigorous analysis for shadows, infrastructure, and neighborhood impacts raises concerns for residents, small businesses, and public spaces, including the Boston Common and the Public Garden. This plan risks irreversible harm to downtown. I urge the board to reject the current proposal or delay action to allow revisions that first preserve the historic fabric and character of downtown neighborhoods, include enforceable commitments to affordable housing and equitable development, and lastly, reflect community input and provide transparency for residents. I remain committed to ensuring that downtown grows responsibly, balancing development with preservation, affordability, and equity. Thank you for your consideration. And I will just finish my original notes for now. I want to be very clear that I believe downtown is the right place for height and density. Housing is one of the most pressing issues we face, and our building trades want to see more work. I agree with them on the need to create opportunity and growth. At the same time, we need to make sure this plan is done responsibly. Residents have raised valid concerns about shadows, and they want assurances that the areas where height does not belong are not swept into the plan. That is not an unreasonable ask, and it deserves real attention before moving forward. There is a reason that so many of my fellow elected officials are here with me, and residents and neighbors, that this zoning amendment to address their concerns. It is clearly not in a good place yet. The board should not pass it until the community can be more supportive of it and until the city demonstrates it has done the necessary work to balance housing, jobs, and quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to the members of the board, to the director, and to the secretary, and to someone I've admired and respected for 40-something years, Ted Landsmark. Honored to be here. I represent downtown Boston, proudly represent downtown Boston for the last 8 years. I also worked here in downtown Boston prior to this as a probation officer at Suffolk Superior Court for 9 years. Went to high school here at Don Bosco in Chinatown. I know this area as well as anybody. I'm opposed to the latest version of Plan Downtown. I'm disappointed in the community engagement process over the last year. City residents and members of Planned Downtown Advisory Group continue to emphasize their frustration that this latest amendment to allow towers 500 feet in height in close proximity to Boston Common, the public garden, was another departure from previous versions of the plan. A key area my constituents highlighted to me is the failure to require on-site affordable housing, which not only provide access to workforce, middle market, and income-restricted units we so desperately need. Concerns remain on the distinct character of the different areas of downtown Boston. Removing height limits across key corridors in historic preservation, as well as a lack of any shadow study or impact analysis that has yet to be shared with the community and stakeholders. Negotiate neighbors in advisory groups who worked in partnership with the Boston Planning Development Agency to provide community input over the last years continue to express disappointment with regard to a lack of respect in their efforts. It is critical that the downtown Boston neighbors and other neighbors, such as Beacon Hill, Back Bay, I represent the Back Bay as well. I represent a small section of Beacon Hill. They should be part of the process. They should be respected. In addition, it has come to my attention that city officials, developers, and select community members recently met and held a private meeting here at City Hall. I wasn't included in that meeting. I don't know what the latest version of that meeting was, since I wasn't included. As the District 2 City Councilor that represents the majority of downtown Boston, it is critical that the public process be respected. Duly elected officials be included to represent the voice of their constituents and small businesses as well. I continue to believe that the residents of a neighborhood must be heard and respected during these critical times. I'm sorry to say that didn't take place. Given the concerns my constituents have regarding the impact to historic sites, tourism, the height, I strongly encourage the BPDA to reject the proposal and or allow for more community engagement. There has to be more community engagement. Residents need to be heard. They need to be respected. If they're not respected, this plan will impact the city negatively for years to come. It'll put a bad taste in people's mouths when residents feel like they're not respected. And I agree with them. There's still time to get this right. And I think I speak on behalf of my constituents, the Bay Village Neighborhood Association, the Beacon Hill Civic Association, Downtown Boston Neighborhood Association, Freedom Trail Foundation, the Friends of the Public Garden, so many other neighbors, the Neighborhood Association, the Back Bay, and others. It's about respect, and that's what we're here today for, is asking a little bit of respect from the city and give my neighbors an opportunity to have their voices heard. Thank you.
Hi, Chair Rojas, Secretary Projimes, Chief Shen, and members of the board. Today I speak in support of Plan Downtown, as both the chair of the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation, and as the only city councilor that lives in a downtown neighborhood. Today is an important moment in deciding the future of our city, whether Boston will thrive with the resources and amenities to support a growing population and sustain our infrastructure. I need to lend my voice to what I believe is a necessary step to solving the housing crisis here in Boston, too. It's not easy to stand up for your principles when there are competing ideals at play. I love our parks and historic spaces deeply. The Boston Common and the Public Garden are treasures that first made me feel at home here. I know that housing affordability and availability is one of the top issues I hear from my constituents. The future of downtown matters to all of us. Our city is facing challenges, vacant offices, struggling small businesses, and declining foot traffic that affects safety and vitality. This plan helps us address those issues head-on while still preserving the character of our historic districts and protecting our beloved green spaces. We need a strong and vibrant downtown, which will benefit every neighborhood, and this plan will help ensure that happens. Public officials and residents have spent 6 years shaping the plan, revising it in response to community feedback. While some have expressed frustration that the process and they didn't feel heard, I see clear evidence that resident input has shaped the draft before us today. Nothing is perfect, but this plan strikes a balance between much-needed housing and investment while preserving the scale of our historic districts and integrity of our parks. The Downtown Boston Alliance, which has been central to stewarding safety and vitality in the area, supports the plan. Their work in guiding 20 new business leases in 2025, including 9 City of Boston space grantees, shows what happens when we invest in downtown. Plan Downtown will help accelerate that momentum, drawing tourism and bringing new energy to the neighborhood. The plan also sets clear expectations for housing. It encourages residential development and adaptive reuse of office spaces, requires 20% of new units to be income restricted, and supports new jobs in construction and related industries. For a city that is committed to sustainably reaching 800,000 residents, we cannot afford to leave downtown out of the equation. Concentrating housing in an area with world-class hospitals, shopping, entertainment, and robust transportation network is exactly how we should be growing. I understand that the concerns about historic preservation. I represent 40% of Boston's historic districts. Residents feared that the January draft threatened the scale and character of the latter districts in Washington Street. In response, planning reduced the heights allowed in those areas and expanded lower scale height zones around Old South Meeting House, ladder blocks, and Park Plaza. This change reflects meaningful responsiveness and a balanced approach. The zoning plan strengthens protections for the Boston Common and Public Garden by explicitly stating the state's shadow laws. These laws were won after years of advocacy and exist for a reason. When exceptions are made, as with Winthrop Square Tower in 2017, that is a result that cannot be reversed. At that time, only Councilors Zachem, Wu, and Jackson opposed the exemption. I will not support making new exemptions. In fact, I filed a resolution to affirm the Council's commitment to upholding these protections. Some have expressed fear that this plan will lead to skyscrapers that erase the human scale of the downtown. If there can be no height in the downtown, where can there be height? The reason for building up in a concentrated area is because the infrastructure to support dense living environment already exists. Through the Article 80 process, other amenities and mitigation will be secured through individual project proposals. This plan to take the downtown from primarily a 9-to-5 neighborhood to an intentional residential neighborhood with more amenities that will support that growth. We need to encourage development. We need to be nimble and extract investment. Even in the face of high interest rates, rising construction costs, our city relies heavily on property taxes to fund essential services, with more than 70% of Boston's operating budget coming from this single source. When commercial property values decline, as they have since the pandemic, the burden shifts to residents. Zoning needs to reflect the reality on the ground, and restricting the usage and size of parcels will drive investment away. We need to be nimble for the market. This plan, therefore, is not about zoning or height. It is about ensuring that Boston's financial stability is there, and it's also about making sure that we can continue to fund schools, maintain safe streets, keep our parks clean, and deliver the services our residents depend on. Some of those in this room ask me to do those things every single day, and that's why I think it would be a disservice to the residents of Boston if I came in opposition to something that we need so dearly. While I do not represent the downtown, the revised plan is balanced and thoughtful. I support its direction. I believe in a Boston that grows, and that means including in District 8. I will continue to advocate for a city that grows with care, with respect for history, and with room for everyone. And I'm going to speak on one more item.
Please.
Okay. Dear Chair Rojas and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to testify as City Councilor for District 8, where the Groundwater Conservation Overlay District encompasses the majority of its neighborhoods, as well as a trustee of the Boston Groundwater Trust. I'm here to speak in support of text amendments to Article 32. The ZBA has essentially acted as a rubber stamp for Article 32 only cases. These changes will remove this procedural redundancy while maintaining rigorous oversight. The Boston Groundwater Trust will continue to issue no harm letters, and BWSC will still require groundwater recharge systems. I want to thank the Planning Department, ISD, BWSC, and the Boston Groundwater Trust for their diligence in crafting these amendments, and I'm very happy to see this move forward. I believe this reform is in the best interest of the city, and I urge the BPDA and the Zoning Commission to adopt it. Okay, thank you both. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Durkin. Yes?
Representative Livingstone is online, and I'd like to take him next.
Okay, so we're going to take Representative Livingston. I see you on the camera there. So we'll take you next. The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Jay Livingstone, and I serve as the state representative for the 8th Suffolk District, which includes the Boston neighborhoods of Beacon Hill, Back Bay, the West End, and the Fenway. The district also includes two of Boston's most iconic landmarks, the Boston Common and Public Garden. I'm here to ask you to reject the planned downtown Boston draft zoning proposal and rework it because the current plan could result in depriving the Boston Common and Public Garden of crucial needed sunlight. Moreover, a strong coalition created a workable plan to double current zoning heights, except at critically sensitive areas more than a year ago, that could be used instead to meet the goals of this zoning without the negative impacts on the park. I understand that only elected officials are allowed to speak during this hearing, so I'm testifying today not only on behalf of my office, but also on behalf of many constituents and stakeholders. The Beacon Hill Civic Association, the Neighborhood Association of Back Bay, the Fenway Civic Association, Revolutionary Spaces, the Freedom Trail Foundation, and most importantly, the Friends of the Public Garden have asked me to speak and object to this zoning proposal on their behalf. I've also uniformly heard objections from my constituents on this proposal. I speak for all of them, particularly as they're not allowed to speak at this meeting. First, I want to express why the Boston Common and Public Garden are so important. Both are iconic parks that are intertwined with Boston's identity. When Boston is shown on national TV, it's very common for it to be an image of one of these two parks. Visitors travel from around the world to visit the Boston Common, America's first public park, and the Public Garden, one of the most beautiful parks in the world. The parks are enjoyed as public green spaces by thousands of residents daily. I'm one of those lucky enough to use the parks daily. I typically on my commute walking to the State House from Back Bay through the Public Garden and Common, and my family, like so many others, are constantly using the parks as our green space for soccer, for baseball, and other outdoor recreational spaces. The first time my oldest son walked on his own, it was to chase a ball on the grass in the Public Garden. My experiences are not unique. These spaces are part of our lives, which is why I work so hard as a state representative to preserve them. I want to thank Mayor Wu for the time and effort she has personally spent on this proposal, speaking with stakeholders and other individuals to understand their concerns. I am never surprised and always appreciate the mayor's hand-on approach to receiving community input. That said, unfortunately, I fear the proposal will allow development that will have a significant detrimental impact on the Boston Common and Public Garden, particularly the heights the plan will allow on Washington Street and the Park Plaza area. If this zoning proposal is approved, it will be permanent and available for additional development projects for Mayor Wu and for future administrations, whether or not future mayors respect and appreciate the parks like our current mayor does. Because of this, I oppose this plan. The zoning currently is 155 feet along Washington Street and Boylston Street to allow the maximum sunlight for the grass, the trees, and the flowers of the Common and the Public Garden that are needed. As I mentioned, I understand this zoning height could be doubled to 300 feet while maintaining the same level of protection. The zoning proposal, however, would allow development up to 500 and up to 700 feet in places, which will, if built, significantly negatively impact these treasured green spaces. I know the zoning plan specifically references the state shadow law as a limit on this height. That is not enough. While the state shadow law was a novel limitation in our state to protect the Boston Common and Public Garden, it has proven to be porous at times and has not always provided the protection people anticipate. It's a document that was heavily negotiated and political process decades ago and contains numerous exceptions. It is not true that it will prevent the backstop of protection that is claimed. If you want to protect the sunlight on the Boston Common Public Garden, this proposal can't be approved. Indeed, this zoning proposal came out of the fight about that shadow law that was referenced earlier for the Millennium Tower. It was hoped that this zoning process would allow more downtown development while providing more guarantees for the sunshine on the Boston Common and Public Garden. Instead, if you approve this proposal, the process will result in the greatest threat the Boston Common and Public Garden have ever faced. There is a better way, and Mayor Wu has creatively shown that to us throughout different projects in Boston. I also represent the Back Bay Fens in the Fenway neighborhood. The area around the Fens has faced increasing development pressure. Mayor Wu wisely instructed the Parks Department to conduct a thorough study on the Back Bay Fens, plant and animal life, and how residents and visitors use the park. I understand the report that resulted, which is fascinating to read, will be used to determine in a fair, thoughtful way whether future development proposals will or won't negatively impact these interests identified to determine whether or not they should be approved. That thoughtful, data-driven approach should and could be replicated here. The Friends of the Public Garden several years ago produced a similar model for the development around the Boston Common and Public Garden called the Sunshine Model. The Sunshine Model would allow more development in certain places in the proposed zoning and less in others, but it would guarantee the future sunshine on these essential green spaces of the Boston Common and Public Garden so they could be enjoyed for generations to come. I urge you to reject this proposal and instead work towards a framework along the lines of the Sunshine Model that will secure our parks for future generations while still meeting our housing needs. Thank you for taking me out of turn, and thank you for your time and consideration.
No, thank you for your participation and your representation of your constituents. Cool. So you missed the earlier. So if we're recording, I just have to do this thing where you just state your name and affiliation if you're recording. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Recording. Okay. Cool. All right. Next. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Luigi Natali, and I work for Chairman Michaelowitz. Unfortunately, he could not be here today, but he has prepared a letter expressing his opposition to the downtown master plan. I want to start by thanking everyone for the effort that has gone into the downtown master plan. As you may recall, this initiative was agreed upon as part of the mitigation for amending of the shadow law as it pertained to the Winthrop Square project in 2017. I especially want to recognize the Downtown Boston Alliance and the Downtown Boston Neighborhood Association for their engagement and leadership over the past several years. You have remained committed to shaping a downtown that is vibrant, welcoming, and sustainable. Your dedication has been critical to the process. Downtown has faced significant challenges over the past decade, and COVID-19 hit the area particularly hard. Many businesses struggled, foot traffic declined, and the energy of the neighborhood was deeply affected. Throughout this period, residents and community groups stepped up to bring life back to downtown. Most recently, they worked closely with the mayor's office and the public safety officials and the other elected officials to ensure the area remained safe, active, and more residential friendly. Their efforts have helped create a sense of resilience and hope and laying a strong foundation for the future of downtown. I support many of the goals of the Downtown Master Plan. The commitment to revitalizing downtown, fostering collaboration among residents, businesses, and city officials, and enhancing public safety is commendable. The vision for a more vibrant and livable downtown is something I have supported from the beginning. That said, there are aspects of this proposal that I cannot support. Most notably, the proposed changes to the Sky D zone along the right side of Washington Street have raised concerns for me throughout this entire process. Many residents feel the zone represents an overreach and could significantly impact the character and the scale of the neighborhood. These concerns have been raised in previous letters and discussions, and I continue to share the residents' reservations regarding this components of the plan. Another important area of concern is the preservation of affordable housing in downtown Boston. In the past, proposals have not consistently ensured that off-site affordable housing remained within the downtown planning zone. which has sometimes allowed growth to occur at the expense of the accessibility and inclusivity. It is critical that going forward, any off-site affordable units created by developers remain within the downtown planning zone and are not relocated elsewhere. Downtown must remain affordable and accessible for all residents, including those who have long called this area home and those who are seeking to live and work here in the future. Affordable housing is not optional. It is a critical part of a thriving, equitable downtown. In closing, I want to once thank the Downtown Boston Alliance, the Downtown Boston Neighborhood Association, and the BPDA staff for their dedication and hard work. I also want to acknowledge Mayor Michelle Wu and her team for taking on such a significant project and prioritizing downtown as a central part of Boston's growth and future. While I cannot support the iteration of this plan, I deeply value the effort and collaboration and the leadership that have gone into it. I am confident that with continued engagement, we can create a downtown that balances growth, inclusivity, and affordability, ensuring a vibrant, accessible, and sustainable downtown Boston for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Haley Walsh, speaking on, I'm Chief of Staff for Senator Nick Collins, speaking on his behalf. Senator Collins would like to be on record, along with his colleagues, in opposition to the proposal. Throughout the process, community members have raised valid and reasonable concerns. We agree with the concepts of economic development and housing creation, but believe, like my colleagues and the community here today, that some of the heights are too high. We look forward to continuing the work to find solution to housing crisis and ensure our building trades can put people to work. We share their commitment to creating new opportunities and driving responsible growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair. Okay, we have Ms. Gomez, Via Gomez. The floor is yours if you want to take yourself off mute.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Chief Shen, and members of the board. My name is Manuela Villagomez, and I am State Senator Lydia Edwards, District Director, and I'm speaking on her behalf today. Senator Edwards would like to go on record that after having heard from many of her constituents, the mayor's office, Chief Shen, and other elected officials about Plan Downtown, she neither supports nor opposes this plan. Senator Edwards believes that the proposed zoning has good potential as it will create 9,000 jobs and is expected to create 2,500 residential units, of which 20% will be income restricted, making this the largest amount of middle-class income housing units to be created in downtown in generations. Given that Senator Edwards is deeply concerned about housing options for the middle and working class in downtown, she is supportive of the proposed zoning changes plan to help create homes for the middle and working class. However, the plan has not addressed all of the concerns that she has previously submitted to the planning department earlier this year, specifically around the commercial development and the accountability for developers. Senator Edwards is concerned about the ability of small local businesses, such as hardware stores and small grocery stores owned by people of color and first-generation Americans, to compete for space with big box stores and chains. She is concerned that there will no longer be a neighborhood at the end of the plan. When it comes to accountability for developers, she is concerned that the development will occur building by building, but the zoning will be collective. She is concerned about how developers will be held accountable for building their projects on time, accomplishing their affordability goals, and completing projects so as not to end up with projects that are approved for construction but remain unbuilt, like Suffolk Downs in East Boston. Senator Edwards would like to ask the board for more time to refine Plan Downtown, but she realizes that 8 years of deliberation has been a long time for this discussion. She is thankful for your continued partnership, and she knows you understand the importance of creating updated zoning that represents community perspectives and needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villagomez. Councilor Coleta Zapata, the floor is yours. I see you there if you want to unmute, and yeah.
Thank you. Just confirming you can hear me?
Yes, confirmed.
Excellent. I'm here to speak solely on the components of Plan Downtown within the confines of District 1, geographically speaking, without getting specific into names of the boundaries or the perimeter that was specified in the plan. But I'm here in strong support of the proposed zoning amendments within District 1 in respect to my colleague from District 2, which affects Government Center, State Street, and portions of the Wharf District. The update strikes the right balance between protecting Boston's historic and cultural assets while also allowing appropriate growth in the very heart of the downtown business district. As outlined in the recent zoning update, the only new area eligible to reach 700 feet is already built out with towers above 500 feet, making it the epicenter of downtown's commercial core. Concentrating additional height here ensures that growth is contextually appropriate, avoids impacts on sensitive areas, and supports Boston's long-term goals for housing and economic vitality. By enabling height where tall towers already exist and are served by major transit hubs, such as Government Center and State Street Station, this plan advances several key urban planning principles: transit-oriented growth, housing production, contextual development, and protection of historic and open spaces. More importantly, the rest of District 1 sees little to no change in allowable building heights. This reflects a balanced approach that both respects neighborhood character and embraces downtown's role as the economic and cultural driver of Boston and the region. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the BPDA to adopt the proposed zoning amendments. Concentrating height and growth in Government Center and State Street is the right strategy to deliver housing, sustain economic momentum, and ensure the downtown Boston's continued vitality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any elected officials that would like to speak in the room? Okay, just for context, right, we take elected officials out of order, if they so choose to give public testimony. So that particular item that we just heard about is not on the agenda till later. So I've got a lot of agenda items to get through before we get to that one. So I just want to be clear on the order of operations here. So agenda item number 1. Yeah. Oh, Russell, does Representative Holmes has his hand up. So would you like to give public testimony now? If so, you can take yourself off mute. We're happy to take you out of turn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Board. I actually have heard all the testimony so far be about downtown Boston. My testimony is about 990 American Legion. Should I just wait?
No, you can.
Until
You're welcome. You're welcome to say that now. If you, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board and Director Shin. I am testifying in regard to 990 American Legion because of my strong concern of the many changes that have happened over the years. There has been obviously many emails, phone calls, and the like from constituents, but I've been a part of this conversation since the developer and I and Jubilee went out and just walked the site long before the proposal had gone in. My concern is deeply concerned of the community benefits that have now been removed. When we began this conversation, I've said to the neighborhood groups what the developer was saying to me the entire time, and that is that it was an as of right project. And the entire time I've been trying to have a compromise between a developer who could build as of right and a community who very much wanted the city to buy all of the property and keep it as is. And so I am here just not to give a long testimony, but to say um, that I am not supportive of this latest design. um, it removed all of the things that from the beginning of this project that I thought were good concessions for the neighborhood. There is now absolutely no affordable housing. Not only did I advocate for affordable units, but I advocated for affordable units and affordable ownership, which is no longer in the project. There's no path at all, which was another great benefit that was being considered. There is no overlook anymore on the project. And then there's no upgrades um, for the bus stop that was going to be in their area. And now the developer's saying, well, the community benefit is, hey, you're going to get housing and you're going to get the new light that's going to come in. And I'm still clear that the new light is simply because he needs to get his all of his new tenants in and out of that property. So now bringing no affordability and nothing but market rate is going to destroy that neighborhood. There's no gated private neighborhood anywhere remotely in the Hyde Park area, and this is essentially what this brings. And so I am opposed to this project, and really, I really am disappointed that Jubilee is allowing this to be done in their name, even though Mr. Noon will say that he has now been put in this position because of how much money he has spent through court and everything else. A developer should still follow through with those commitments, and definitely when they're doing that in the name of the largest Black church in all of New England. I said from the beginning, when some people were saying that we should go in and have this property taken by eminent domain, I was a strong no to saying we're going to go to the largest Black church in this all of New England and take something from them. But I am now a strong no to say this has been done wrong, and I'm certainly hoping Jubilee in the end will use its name and its influence to bring a project that delivers the promises that they committed to for this community, because that's what they should still deliver. Thank you for taking me out of order, and I appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much, Representative Holmes, for your continued participation in this process. Again, this is an agenda item that is about 28 away from now, but duly noted, recorded, and appreciated. All right, agenda item number 1, let's get there. Request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the August 14, 2025 board meeting for the executive session meetings of the September 11, 2025 board meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on October 16, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the proposed master plan for Plan Development Area Number 156 Austin Street Lots redevelopment and the proposed Building B development plan for Plan Development Area Number 156 located in the Charlestown neighborhood. This is just a request to schedule a hearing. So a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Another request for scheduling. Request authorization to schedule a public hearing on October 16th, 2025 at 5:40 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the proposed second amendment to the amended and restated master plan for the Plan Development Area Number 51 Hood Park and the proposed development plan for 25 Super Test Street within Plan Development Area Number 51 Hood Park and the proposed development plan for 15 Super Test Street within the Plan Development Area Number 51 Hood Park located in Charlestown neighborhood. A motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 4, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Orange Barrel Media LLC as the operator of an electronic sign to be located at 51 Brookline Avenue for a term of 1 year with 8 one-year optional extension terms and to issue a design review approval of the electronic sign permit and to take all related actions. Eric.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Shen, and Secretary Bohemus. My name is Eric Boatwright. I'm a senior architect in the Design Review Division of the Planning Department. I present to you for approval a license agreement with Orange Barrel Media, allowing a new electronic sign at 51 Brookline Avenue opposite Lansdowne Street. We also seek your approval to issue the design review approval for the proposed signs building permit application. The project is within the Lansdowne Street Entertainment District, which is as outlined in Article 11, an area that allows for electronic signage as a conditional use. The project will be designed to conform within the zoning code. Variances to the zoning code will not be required. This permit will expire after 8 years, at which time the board may choose to renew the permit for an additional 8 years or to not extend the permit. The license agreement will be made with the proponent, like agreements for other electronic signs in the city. The agreement will be automatically renewed annually for up to 8 years. The city will receive an annual fee plus a share of the revenue generated by the sign. 10% of the display time will be non-commercial public service content. Limits on the brightness, animation, and hours of operation will be consistent with the zoning code design guidelines as stated in Article 11. The proposed signage will feature an electronic display facing east, surrounded by an architectural frame, giving the signage a more significant presence at the intersection. The proposed signage will replace 3 conventional billboards on the roof of 51 Brookline Avenue. The proposed sign will also stay within the limits of the property of 51 Brookline.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I actually have a couple, Madam Chair. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. I am not a fan of billboards, so I appreciate that electric billboards often mean fewer stationary billboards. So it's a trade-off I think we need to consider. Very briefly, it's about 10% revenue of the annual revenue would be kicked back to the city. Do you know ballpark what that would be?
I don't know. It's 10% of the broadcast time will be dedicated to public service content.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm
And
sorry.
then the portion of the revenue is to be negotiated.
That would, and the
Yeah.
city would negotiate that with
Yeah.
firm. And then when you talk about non-commercial time, that 10%, that would be Amber Alert, street closures, festivals, public service announcements.
Correct, yeah. Anything that the city might want to advertise, we can submit to them to broadcast on their sign. And community members could also bring their content to the screen as well.
Good to know. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm supportive of this, just more curious, because these are rare, so it's good that we're having these conversations. Appreciate you looking at it.
I too remember the first electrical sign that I approved had a lot of questions. So no, I appreciate that. Any additional questions or comments? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Eric. Item number 5, request authorization for BRA-owned properties to be included in a joint request for proposals with the City of Boston to seek bids relating to vending services in connection with Sale 250 event in 2026. Lauren.
Members of the board, I'm before you again to ask for the inclusion of BRA properties for the vending program for the Sale 250 programming with the City of Boston.
Great.
It's
Thank
the same
you.
motion as
Same, yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I can repeat it if you like.
Fully understood. No need to repeat, but a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Lauren. Item number 6, request authorization to execute a license with Boston Playhouse Realty Incorporated for the use of approximately 2,978 square feet of land adjacent to the Charles Playhouse on Warrenton Street for a period of 5 years, commencing October 1st, 2025, and ending September 30th, 2030, with 1 5-year option extension term. Liz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the board. Since 1995, the BPDA has licensed approximately 2,978 square feet of a 5,693 square foot parcel located at 8486 Charles Street and adjacent to the Charles Playhouse on Warrenton Street to the Blue Man Group, whom I'll reference as BMG moving forward. The remaining land is licensed as a community dog park from the Bay Village Neighborhood Association. The current license agreement with BMG, scheduled for expiration in December 2025, allows BMG to cancel the license with 90-day notice if BMG performances are discontinued at the Charles Playhouse. BMG has ceased performances at the Charles Playhouse effective July 6, 2025, and has accordingly exercised the 90-day notice to terminate the license in a letter dated June 23rd, 2005. Excuse me, June
okay.
2025.
Some water.
Boston Playhouse Realty, Inc., owner of the Charles Playhouse, is bullish on the reuse of the Charles Playhouse and has reached out to the BPDA about entering into a new license agreement for the continued use of the mobile trailer on site that BMG has agreed to leave behind to accommodate their show staff and operations. BPDA intends to enter into a license agreement with Boston Playhouse Realty, Inc., and the license term shall begin on October 1st, 2025, and expire September 30, 2030, for a term of 5 years with 1 5-year option term at the conclusion of the initial term. Following a recent market analysis, thank you.
No, I've been there with the thing in the throat, and it's at the time that you're presenting, so just take a sip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
BPDA intends to enter into a license agreement with Boston Playhouse Realty, Inc., and the license term shall begin October 1st, 2025, and expire September 30, 2030, for a term of 5 years with a 5-year option term at the conclusion of the initial term. Following a recent market analysis, staff has determined that the license fee under the new license agreement will begin at $4,938.04 per month
for the first year. The license fee will then increase annually by 3%. Should the option be exercised, a new market evaluation will be conducted to assess the comparable rental market rates. Over the term of the license, the BRA shall receive no less than $314,676 in fixed rent. Thank you, and I am here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. But right before we do the second one, I want to announce for the record, we have Catherine Carlack from the Globe, who is online and recording the meeting, so we just record that into the record. All right, but item number 7, request authorization to enter into a lease agreement with Dimeo Construction Company for the use of suites 109 and 110 located at 2 Boylston Street for a period of 8 months, commencing October 1st, 2025, and ending May 30th, 2026. Liz.
Thank you. 2 Boylston Street, also known as the China Trade Center, was built in 1887, is a designated Boston landmark, and is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. In 1993, the BRA purchased this 80,000 square foot, 6th-floor Class B office building, and it serves as a symbol of the city of Boston's commitment to revitalize Boston's Midtown and Chinatown area. Dimeo Construction, DCC, whom I'll refer to as moving forward, was founded in 1930 and has steadily grown to become recognized among the leading construction organizations in New England. DCC was hired by St. Francis House to lead the renovation and development of their downtown location, and are seeking to extend their existing lease for their daily operations to manage this project. DCC will also share office space with St. Francis House while the renovation is ongoing. St. Francis House current and soon-to-be developed building is adjacent to the China Trade Center. The tentative lease terms will be for 8 months, commencing on October 1st, 2025, and expiring May 30, 2026. Included in their terms will be an option to extend for an additional 6 months. Also, a 30-day written notice to terminate should they leave prior to the lease term. BPDA staff conducted an analysis of the Chinatown Midtown Class B office market and determined DCC will pay the market rate of $31.50 per square foot for Suite 109 and Suite 110. During the term of the 8-month lease, BPDA will receive $55,902 in fixed rent. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks so much, Liz. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Item number 8, request authorization to enter into 2 license agreements with TFC 30 Winter LLC and BCB 3 LLC for the use and activation of the exterior of the property at 30 Winter Street for a 6-week placemaking activation event as part of the Design Vision Tactical Urbanism Project, commencing October 1st and terminating November 16th, 2025. Breeze.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, and members of the board. Back in 2014 of December, you all adopted the Design Vision as a way to help guide future design strategies and inform how the built environment is shaped to elevate the quality of design. I put together a slideshow so we can have some imagery as I speak through this. So you can go to the next slide. Through the design vision process, we engaged with hundreds of Bostonians, asking them what they love most about their neighborhoods. This informed place-specific design opportunities for streets, open spaces, and housing to help us reimagine the design of the city. Next slide. We identified Winter Street in downtown Carlson as a placemaking opportunity to enhance safety, improve pedestrians' experience, and stimulate the local economy of downtown through vibrant design interventions. We're calling the event Color Flows on Winter, and it will run daily starting early October and during the pedestrian zone hours, which is from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And as you said, it would be for 6 weeks. And it will feature public art, programming, canopy lighting, games, pop-up food and beverage garden, food trucks, and more for all ages. We'll be using the exterior of 30 Winter, which is owned by TFC 30. And that will be our primary area where we serve the food and beverages, which will also have additional seating, some planting and the lighting. And it will be operated by a partner food vendor, who is the second lease license agreement that we were entering. And they will obtain all the necessary permits and insurances to operate that space. Next slide. This is just kind of showing some of the visual public art programming that we're hoping to do, which is currently happening now if you pass by Winter Street and Downtown Crossing. So we'll be activating the full length of the street. There will be some seating along the edges, and during the event, we'll bring out foldable chairs to expand activities, and also there will be some custom vinyl decals that we'll be having on storefronts, vacant storefronts along the street, so folks can get that art experience. And through this planning, through the planning of this event, we've engaged with different Winter Street stakeholders who are all excited about the positive attention and the sense of community that this event will bring. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Seems really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's this really great like poster thing here. If you couldn't see it on the slide, I just really encourage us all to see what's already there. I love hanging out there and seeing the activation, and this is just, again, so exciting to see, and having community gathering spaces and arts, and particularly the decals that are on the vacant storefronts as we search for you know, the right solutions and tenants, and doing that of like having arts and those you know, decals, and hopefully to promote other artists and local artists. I'm just, again, obviously way excited about this and super supportive. So there's no other questions or comments. A motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Okay, item number 9, request authorization to extend the tentative designation status to a joint venture between Asian Community Development Corporation and the Community Builders for the redevelopment of parcel P-12C located at 290 Tremont Street in the South Cove Urban Renewal Area, project number Mass R-92, for a period of 12 months through September 30th, 2026, and continue negotiations with the redeveloper to facilitate the long-term ground lease. Ben.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm a real estate development officer in the real estate division here. We are requesting board approval to extend the tentative designation status of the joint venture between Asian Community Development Corporation, also known as ACDC, and the community builders known as TCB, together being the redeveloper for the redevelopment of parcel P12C located at 290 Tremont Street in the Chinatown neighborhood, and to continue lease negotiations with them to facilitate the long-term ground lease. Parcel P12C is an approximately 29,000 square foot site located in the South Cove Urban Renewal Area. It is comprised of 2 contiguous assessor parcels of land within the blocks bound by Tremont and Washington Streets and Oak Street West and Stewart Streets. It is abutted by land used for a YMCA, hotel, parking, and other commercial retail uses. The original proposal included 119 units, all of which were proposed to be income restricted. After an investigation into the feasibility of adding additional units, the program was increased to 132 income-restricted units. Due to the current funding availability affecting affordable homeownership developments, the redeveloper is reviewing the proposed project's feasibility. The current proposed plan, though, is for the development to include 100% affordable rental units. All rental units will plan to be income restricted at rents affordable to households with income levels ranging from approximately 30% of area median income to 80%. Additionally, the proposed project will include approximately 2,500 square feet of ground level community commercial space for rent or for purchase, 132 bicycle parking spaces, and a new blue bike station at or near the site. Since receiving their tentative designation in extension in September 2023. The redeveloper has applied to the EOHLC, or Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities funding round, secured City of Boston's Mayor's Office of Housing funds, completed 70% drawings, began Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority Zone of Influence review, began lease negotiations with staff regarding the long-term ground lease. During the requested 12-month extension, the development team plans to achieve the following to enable staff to recommend final designation: secure EOHLC funding from the state, complete construction drawings and design review, complete the bidding process, complete ground lease negotiations with our staff, and begin construction closing process. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Look, I just want to, wish the, developer, everybody I know is working really, really hard to make this happen. And so the extension makes sense. We're talking about 100% affordable housing and the 30 to 80% of AMI.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that need to get cobbled together to be able to make this happen. So I am just, sending positive energy and cooperation all around so that we can get this over the line. But and for right now, this is a request for an extension, and a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thanks so much, Ben.
Thank you.
All right, item number 10, request authorization to amend a contract with Coastal Marine Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $550,000 for the improvements to the east-facing seawall of Long Wharf and the Central Wharf District, and to further execute any change orders that may be required to complete the work as deemed necessary by the director in an aggregate amount not to exceed 10% of the amended contract amount. William.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. This matter was before you last month when you granted authorization to amend the design contract with Foth Engineers, the engineer of record for this project. As a reminder, when we were restacking and resetting the granite seawall, we learned that the top slab that supports the granite pavers had several large voids underneath it. Obviously, those were unknown, unforeseen conditions. Since we amended the engineer's contract, they have done their investigation. They have detailed repairs that are necessary, and we're ready to get the contractor to implement those. In fact, they started earlier today, so let's hope for a favorable vote. We had an original contract of $1.83 million. We're requesting a 30% increase in the amount of $605,000. That includes a 10% contingency of $55,000 for a total contract award of $2,433,776.40. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 11, request authorization to execute a contract with GEI Consultants Incorporated for engineering design services for the Shipyard Park Waterfront Repairs Phase 3 of the Flagship Wharf Bulkhead in the Charlestown Navy Yard for a contract amount of $575,995, and to further execute a design contingency for $88,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $667,995. William.
Thank you. Again, this matter was last before you of May of this year when you granted authorization to issue the request for proposals for which GEI has submitted. As a reminder, the effort seeks to repair the 1980s steel sheet pile bulkhead that is located in the Charlestown Navy Yard between Piers 4 and 5. This area is known as Flagship Wharf. It was built in the 1980s. It's 10 years past its useful service life. The engineer will design a repair or replacement of the seawall. The RFQ was issued June of this year. We had 60 participants who downloaded the solicitation. 4 proposals were received. The most advantageous was from GEI. The proposal fee was $579,995. We are requesting a contingency of 15% in the amount of $88,000 for the total contract award of $667,995, and this is funded from the City of Boston's capital budget. They gave us $4 million for both the design and the construction.
Got it. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, William. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Okay. we've got a lot of work to do, people. Like, and I know we're going through these like fast, but I do want to, just because we have an audience today, you know, we receive all of these memos, comment letters, everything. So it may seem like we're going fast, right? But we, you know, a lot of due care and consideration is taken and read in preparation for this meeting. So I just feel then compelled to say that. But item number 12, request authorization to issue an invitation for bids for arborist services on BRA-owned properties citywide for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year option extension terms. Lauren.
Thank you very much. We believe the trees on BRA property also should be taken care of, so we're asking for an IFB to advertise for that.
I believe that as well, but let's take a motion is in order, and let's find out. Okay.
Second.
Right, roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark. Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 13. Thank you, Lauren. Item number 13, I request authorization to extend a contract with Brightview Landscape Services, LLC, for landscaping services at Charlestown Navy Yard through November 30th, 2025, for a contract amount not to exceed $75,000. Chris.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Shen. I'm here today to request a contract amendment with Brightview Landscaping Services, LLC, for the landscaping services at the Charlestown Navy Yard. We are seeking to extend the current contract by 197 days with an end date of November 30th, 2025, at an additional cost not to exceed the $75,000 that you said. In light of, we are requesting an amendment to increase the current contract amount from $196,796 to a total not exceed $271,796 for the current term. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 14, a request authorization to amend a contract with Gone Green Electric Company Incorporated, set to expire January 10th, 2026, for unanticipated electrical services at BRA-owned properties in the amount of $75,000 for a new contract value of $300,000. Chris.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I'm here today to request an amendment to our current contract for electrical services on BRA-owned properties. On November 17, 2022, the BRA Board authorized the Director to enter into a one-year contract with Gone Green Electric Company with 2 one-year extension options at an amount not to exceed $75,000 per year. The current contract is scheduled to expire on January 10, 2026. However, due to an unexpected increase in the volume of work needed to maintain and upgrade our properties, the allocated funds have already been fully utilized. Given the unanticipated workload and to ensure we can continue addressing ongoing electrical needs, we are requesting an amendment to increase the contract by an additional $75,000. The total cost of this contract is not expected to exceed $150,000 for the term. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passed. Thanks,
Thank you.
Chris. Item number 15, request authorization to adopt a minor modification to the Charlestown Urban Renewal Plan, project number Mass R-55, regarding parcel R-59B2 located at 24 Washington Street in Charlestown, and to enter into a new land disposition agreement with the developer. Max.
Thank you. My name is Max Houghton. I'm a policy specialist here. Hello, members of the board, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polimis, Director Shen. Before you is a resolution asking you to authorize a minor modification to the Charlestown Urban Renewal Plan for parcel R-59B2, also known as 24 Washington Street in the Charlestown neighborhood of Boston. The purpose of this minor modification is to authorize residential uses on the parcel, enabling the redevelopment of the site into a single-family home. Accordingly, the resolution also asks for authorization for the BRA to enter into an amended and restated land disposition agreement, or LDA, with the current owner of the parcel. The parcel is currently in use as landscaped space and off-street parking. As part of the BPDA's consent to this regulatory relief, changing the parcel from restricted open space to residential uses, an incremental value payment has been agreed to by the proponent team and documented in the memorandum. The deal structure described in this memorandum was reviewed and vetted by the policy and real estate teams and was determined to be appropriate for the circumstances of this particular transaction. The proponent team has worked with the BPDA policy, design, and planning staff to discuss their plans, and it is the opinion of our team that the proposed land use of the project is aligned with the appropriate planning goals of the neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote, Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Almost made you a doctor there.
I heard that.
Item number 16, request authorization to adopt a minor modification to the Charlestown Urban Renewal Plan, project number Mass R-55 regarding parcels P-15B-1A and P-15B-1B located at 100 through 168 New Rutherford Avenue in Charlestown. Max.
Thank you. Before you is a resolution asking you to authorize a minor modification to the Charlestown Urban Renewal Plan for parcel P15B1 located along 100 to 168 New Rutherford Avenue and also known as the Austin Street Lots in the Charlestown neighborhood of Boston. The purpose of this minor modification is to authorize the intended uses of the proposed project on these lots, which are described in the resolution, as well as clarifying the boundaries and names of these parcels. Specifically, the north lot will be named as P15B1A and the south lot will be named as P15B1B. These parcels are currently in use as parking lots and primarily used by Bunker Hill Community College. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote, Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 17, thanks so much, Max. Request authorization to petition the Boston Zoning Commission to adopt text amendments for Article 32, Article 2, and Article 3 in the zoning code to make groundwater conservation overlay district regulations more legible and remove the conditional use permit requirement for substantial rehabilitation projects subject to the regulation. Kathleen.
Great. Good evening, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polhimos, Director Shen, and members of the board. I'm Kathleen Onifer. I'm the Deputy Director of Zoning. I'm here presenting on behalf of Jack Halverson, who led this effort on the zoning reform team. He's on his honeymoon. Congratulations, Jack. I'm also joined by Christian Simonelli, who is the Director of the Groundwater Trust and was an important partner in us developing these amendments. And I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce the reason for these changes. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director, Christian Simonelli, Executive Director of Groundwater Trust. I know you have a lot before you, so I'll be pithy. The whole purpose of the Groundwater Conservation Overlay District is to prevent deterioration and promote the infiltration and restoration of groundwater levels in the filled land areas of the city. So in short, we've mapped areas of the city that are on filled land that have wood piling supported structures. The purpose of the G-Cod, one, is to ensure no negative impact, and two, install groundwater recharge systems, which in turn reduces surface water runoff and water pollution. What this does is it protects the value and structural integrity of the land and the buildings, and the recharge systems that are approved are designed and installed to efficiently facilitate the water and infiltrate the water into the ground to keep the groundwater table above the tops of the pilings, keep the pilings wet. Next slide, please. So the Article 32 zoning boundary is defined on this map and is in yellow. I was actually last before you in 2021, where at that time we expanded those boundaries to include 4 areas of the city that we hadn't previously captured. This iteration really is to clean up some of the language and remove an unnecessary burden in regards to substantial renovation. So when you look at the G-Cod, there are applicable projects that need to, one, incorporate the groundwater recharge system. In other words, just capture an inch of surface water, an inch of water over the area of the building, put it back into the ground via, and again, an engineered recharge system, which is approved by the Boston Water and Sewer Commission. And two, that the project engineer certify no negative impact on groundwater levels. What does that mean? Somebody comes in and wants to install underground parking, put in below grade space. Everything needs to be waterproofed, watertight elevators, to have no sump pumps, nothing to take away the groundwater, and that's certified in that letter. The applicable projects, again, require approvals from the Boston Water and Sewer Commission, us, and ultimately the Zoning Board of Appeals. Next slide, please. So the 4 triggers when an applicant goes for a building permit. One is dig down, which was really the original genesis of the G-Cod. The whole purpose of the G-Cod, when it was first drafted in 2005 and adopted in 2006, was to notify abutters and make sure that anybody digging down, anybody doing any below-grade work, have no negative impact on the groundwater table. Groundwater recharge was added
right at the tail end before it was approved, and that was to capture the water to put it back in the ground. So a lot of people just think it's just capturing the rainwater, and it's not. It's twofold. It's capturing the rainwater, one, and then two, certifying no negative impact. So when an applicant is triggered for GCOD, they can get hit either with one, the dig down, which is below a certain depth, two, lot coverage, building out anything greater than 50 square feet, paving, which is defined as anything resurfacing, existing or repaving of new paving of a lot. And then four is the substantial renovation. And that's really the biggest trigger and the most common trigger. And that's really what these changes that we propose here today is really going to streamline. The rehabilitation then again is defined by the 50% of the assessed value of the physical structure, which is again cited by ISD. I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Kathleen to finish this out. Thanks.
Thank you.
We're coming together with these amendments with the Groundwater Trust, Boston Water and Sewer Commission, and ISD working together under the mayor's charge to think about what are opportunities for permitting reform that can help speed up good projects and remove red tape from processes while we're keeping the strong rigor and policy needs we have in place. ISD immediately identified the ZBA review of GCOD as one of those items because the technical compliance of GCOD is conducted by the Boston Water and Sewer Commission, the Groundwater Trust, and ISD plans examiners, not the Board of Appeal. So the planning department then looked at our database of all the variance requests that have happened since 2022, as we report to you on twice a year. We found that there are 119 ZBA cases that had a GCOD applicability since then. Of those cases, 72 of those cases had some other zoning violation or need for zoning relief, and so would need to go to the Board of Appeal for those items. But 47 cases had only the GCOD citation that was sending them to the Board of Appeal. The Board of Appeal process takes about 6 to 9 months just to get onto the agenda, so that represented a pretty significant possible set of changes. Of those 47 cases that had only a GCOD citation, 36 of them were substantial rehabilitation, really pointing out that this was the most important area to focus. Next slide, please. So currently, the existing process for all 4 of those projects with GCOD applicability that Christian walked through, the dig down, lot coverage, paving, and substantial rehabilitation, is that they file a building permit application at ISD, that the ISD plans examiner reviews that application for all components of compliance with the zoning code and the building code, including GCOD. A refusal letter is issued based on any zoning violation that's found, or particularly their applicability for GCOD review. And then the proponent needs to file for conditional use in order to begin the process to get on the Board of Appeal agenda. They go through a notification process, including mailed legal notice, a newspaper ad notice run for the Board of Appeal agenda, and sometimes a butter meetings. And at that same time, the Boston Water and Sewer Commission and the Groundwater Trust do extensive technical review for compliance with provisions of the GCOD. Then comes to the ZBA hearing. The ZBA tends to operate as a rubber stamp on these cases on issues of just the GCOD because of the rigor of the Water and Sewer Commission and the Groundwater Trust review. And then the building permit is issued. So that's the process as it exists currently. Next slide, please.
Whoa. Cancel? I don't think we want everybody to connect.
We'll speak extemporaneously.
Yeah.
For those first 3 types of projects, so the dig down, the lot coverage, and the paving, we're proposing to keep that same process. So they would still receive a refusal letter, still need to go through the Board of Appeal process, and then move forward to a building permit. We came to that decision in looking at both that those can be cases that have some other aspect of zoning relief that are going through the Board of Appeal process, and where changes that are made with that other element may impact the decisions they make. We also heard very clearly from members of the Groundwater Trust representing civic associations in the area that the butter notification and mailing of the ZBA hearing is very valuable to them for those larger projects. So we did identify this as a key thing to think about with permitting reform, is how to think about how we continue to improve notification for projects so that we potentially in the future don't have to rely on the Board of Appeal process to provide the notice that neighbors want and need. So for those three projects, this process will continue to be the same. When someone files, it will continue to undergo technical review by the Groundwater Trust and Water and Sewer Commission and follow the standard process for moving through the ZBA. Next slide, please. For substantial rehabilitation projects, we're proposing a new process where it would not need to go to the Board of Appeal for conditional use. So when they file their building permit application, they would include technical materials that are forwarded to the Boston Water and Sewer Commission and Groundwater Trust to do the exact same review that they do today as part of the appeals process. So the ISD, as well as the Boston Water and Sewer Commission and Groundwater Trust, will do the exact same reviews they do now. If a project that falls into substantial rehabilitation has another zoning violation or need for zoning relief, it will, of course, still go to the ZBA. And once those technical reviews are complete and compliance is assured, it will go forward to getting its building permit issued. Next slide, please. So besides this procedural change for substantial rehabilitation projects, which will greatly help many of the building reuse and office residential conversion projects that we see in the groundwater conservation overlay district area, we've also proposed a series of other small administrative changes that help make this section of the code easier to read. That includes making sure the map is directly accessible within the article so it's easy to see, making sure that definitions are clear, and overall shortening the text about 33% to make it a little easier to read. Next slide, please. So throughout this process, we worked very closely with all of the reviewers, ISD, the Groundwater Trust, and Boston Water and Sewer Commission. They were invaluable in terms of thinking through both the policy issues as well as the permitting workflows that this represents. I particularly want to thank one of the co-chairs of the Groundwater Trust, Rob Whitney, who is the Beacon Hill Civic Association's representative on this process, as well as Elliot Laffer, who represents the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay on the Groundwater Trust and is a former director of the Groundwater Trust, for their sustained participation and really digging into the technical details as well as the drafting of these changes. In addition to hosting a public meeting on these items, we also offered to every neighborhood association in the Groundwater Conservation Overlay District to attend one of their meetings, went and did that for both Jeffries Point and the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay, and are excited to bring these forward for what they would mean in terms of advancing permitting reform across the city. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have questions or comments from the board?
I have a brief comment. I just wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank Christian Simonelli for his incredible leadership, as well as Elliot Laffer, who I know founded the Groundwater Trust many, many years ago. I've had a number of jobs through the years. Christian's had one, and I've gotten to work with him in this capacity. And between he and Elliot, just the decades of service on one of the most important boards in our city that very few people actually know about. I mean, the work you do is yeoman's work. So Kathleen, as persuasive as you are, and you are, I'm voting for this because if the Groundwater Trust is for it, so am I. This seems like it's a no-brainer. So thank you, gentlemen, and to your teams as well for such great work.
Great. Question?
Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
just add that I'm appreciative of this and all of the efforts that the department and the city are making to try to streamline the permitting process. I think it's critical, and there's been a lot happening on that front, so just appreciate it. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? I want to echo my board members. This is one that I always go through with a fine-tooth comb. When I became aware of this, and I want to thank you as well for your, the clarity of your communications and your education, the videos of really helping me, for the past 10 years, like really understand this very complicated technical matter that is crucial. And again, just really appreciative of your work and the thought around this, as well as all of the challenging questions and things that come like before this and the care that's taken with what are all the things that could go wrong, and of us by taking this and identifying that in this particular area, this is something that we can do, and it will be helpful. So with that, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So these next two items, and this is the planned downtown zoning items. So I'm going to read them, and they're going to be presented jointly. We're going to vote on them separately. So I'll read them first. We'll have a presentation, do some question and answer between the board and the agency. And yeah, so that's just a little bit of the, order of operations next. So first, item number 18, request authorization to adopt an amendment to Plan Downtown that includes downtown historic context design guidelines to guide the design, development, and review of projects that enhance downtown's unique and historic fabric. That's item number 18. Item number 19, request authorization to petition the Zoning Commission to adopt text amendments for Article 8 and a new Article 31 to establish skyline districts, and to adopt text changes throughout the zoning code to ensure Article 31 and Article 8 are reflected consistently, and adopt map amendments to zoning maps 1A, 1C, 1G, 1N, and 1H to implement zoning recommendations from Plan Downtown. Andrew.
Good evening, Chair Rojas, members of the board, Director Shen, and Secretary Palhimas. My name is Andrew Namias from the Planning Department, and I serve as Project Manager for Plan Downtown. Tonight, I am seeking authorization to adopt amendments to Plan Downtown, along with text and map amendments to update downtown zoning. Next slide. Under consideration this evening are 3 planning and regulatory pieces to help grow and revitalize downtown. An amendment to Plan Downtown, originally adopted by this board in December 2023, which includes new historic context design guidelines and new strategies to prioritize housing growth. This also includes a zoning text amendment introducing new skyline zoning districts based on the goals of Plan Downtown, and a zoning map amendment that applies these new districts to the downtown area. Next slide. This effort is part of a 6-year planning and zoning process that began in 2017 with a state bill that mandated a comprehensive downtown planning process to address development pressure downtown and guide growth as part of revisions to the state shadow regulations. The result was the Plan Downtown initiative that included zoning recommendations, open space and mobility and policy recommendations, and design guidelines to enable the growth and preservation of the area. The zoning process builds on that effort, and over the past year and a half, the planning department met with hundreds of stakeholders through public meetings, office hours, and responded to over 900 comments to draft zoning that strikes a balance between protecting downtown's historic identity while enabling it to grow and meet the critical housing needs downtown and the neighborhood needs to grow. Next slide. These amendments capture key themes heard throughout this multi-year process. The amendments strengthen historic preservation and opportunities for adaptive reuse, reduce hurdles for barriers facing new and existing businesses, and prioritize critical housing growth in our city center. The zoning also reinforces the city's commitment to the state's shadow regulations. Next slide. The changes presented tonight apply to the downtown areas between Boston Common and Public Garden and the Greenway, including lower historic areas like the ladder blocks between Tremont Street and Washington Street, the historic areas of the Wharf District, and the taller, more commercial areas of the Financial District. Next slide. Plan Downtown proposed 2 types of framework areas within these boundaries: enhance areas to affirm existing historic fabric, and growth areas to encourage large-scale mixed-use development. It became clear through the zoning process that additional emphasis is needed on housing growth across both zones. The amendments to Plan Downtown introduces additional language outlining the strategies needed at every scale to prioritize housing. Next slide. The zoning builds directly off of the areas defined in Plan Downtown. It introduces 2 new zoning districts called Skyline Districts that include Sky Low and Sky. Sky Low districts are distinguished by areas of cohesive historic buildings. The district includes a historic overlay denoted as Sky Low DT that tailors the specific scale of building height and dimensional regulations to the small historic scale of the downtown area. Sky districts are characterized by the city's most significant job, housing, and entertainment density. These districts are regulated to maximize opportunities for future housing and mixed-use growth and ensure that new development enhances the vitality of the city as well as the public realm. Next slide. These two districts are mapped downtown to align with Plan Downtown's framework and were refined and adjusted based on the feedback we've heard throughout the zoning process since the plan was adopted. Next slide. The Skylo DT district covers some of downtown's most significant historic areas, including areas along Washington Street, the ladder blocks around the Old South Meeting House landmark, and Park Plaza. Next slide. These boundaries were updated and expanded through several drafts over the past year, working with stakeholders in the Office of Historic Preservation to address concerns and include additional lower height areas and historic sites. Next slide. While the dimensional controls of the Skylo DT district help maintain the smaller historic scale of these areas, the zoning adds additional tools to incentivize investment in historic buildings. One of these is a carefully limited option for planned development areas to link new housing with the preservation of landmarks and other historic sites. As part of this limited eligibility for planned development areas, or PDAs, PDAs must be at least 1 acre in size, include a designated landmark, devote at least 60% of the project to housing, and commit to preserving both the landmark and other historic buildings in the area. Development controls, building preservation, site-specific dimensional regulations such as maximum allowed building height will be set through the PDA process that includes planning review and community input. Very few sites in Skylo DT can meet the 1 acre and landmark requirement, but this limited tool creates an incentive to provide much needed investment in landmarks and historic buildings that often require larger scale resources for preservation. Next slide. Expanding beyond just the Skylo DT district, the zoning introduces additional measures for both Skylo DT and Sky districts to prioritize adaptive reuse. These measures support the continued success of the city's ongoing office to residential conversion program. To date, the program has successfully created 824 units of new housing across 22 buildings. Several of these projects, however, have faced outdated zoning barriers that have required variances to proceed. The new zoning eliminates these hurdles, creates incentives for adaptive reuse over new ground-up construction, while also allowing enough flexibility for additions and electrification upgrades needed to bring existing buildings up to new energy code. Next slide. To complement these changes, the amendment to Plan Downtown adds an additional chapter to the plan's existing design guidelines. This new section provides site-specific context on the history of different sites and areas downtown. It sets expectations for how buildings, especially tall structures, should be shaped based on their context and to mitigate impacts such as wind. Next slide. Hand in hand with safeguarding the unique character of some of Boston's most historic areas, the zoning also makes room for new development to meet the urgency of our housing crisis. As the most transit accessible part of our city, downtown is a critical location for focusing new mixed use and residential density. The Sky District helps unlock underutilized sites like parking garages and parcels above or adjacent to T stations to enable much needed housing and street level activity, especially along the Washington Street corridor. The review of large projects through Article 80 will continue to assess and mitigate project impacts, including wind and shadow. And as part of that review, these additional design guidelines will help enforce context-sensitive building design and enhancements to the public realm. Next slide. For the first time, downtown zoning will also prioritize residential development. Residential units are allowed in all districts. Large research labs and hotel uses are subject to an additional approvals and process of review as conditional uses. In the Washington Street corridor, where we've heard concerns about development, we further limited heights to 200 feet, except if the site delivers housing. And throughout downtown, office uses over 250,000 square feet will be conditional, subject to additional review and approvals to ensure every opportunity to include housing as part of any new large-scale office and mixed-use development. Recognizing downtown's dual role as housing and job center, this additional review will sunset on January 1st, 2030, unless the Zoning Commission, after evaluating its continued impact on downtown, decides to renew. Next slide. As part of this housing growth, all residential projects must deliver affordable units in downtown in compliance with inclusionary zoning, producing affordable housing at a scale not feasible in other parts of the city. Inclusionary zoning requires projects to be 17% income restricted and an average of 60% AMI, with an additional 3% of units reserved for people with housing vouchers. Affordable units are required to be on site, and any off-site units must still be a half a mile of the project, ensuring that affordable units stay downtown. Off-site units require special approval from the Mayor's Office of Housing and a greater percentage of affordable units. The zoning also allows and affirms needed and present types of affordable housing and services, including shelter facilities, supportive housing, and lodging housing that are valued and essential parts of downtown today. Next slide. While creating more opportunities for people to live downtown, the zoning also takes critical steps to support new and existing businesses by eliminating outdated land restrictions to help fill vacant storefronts and make a more vibrant streetscape. These restrictions allowed uses like millinery shops and lamp stores, but not businesses like fitness uses and escape rooms, and also created extra hurdles for coffee shops and any other small retail with takeout. I learned through this process that millinery shops are hat shops, very specific in the current code, but we will now make that more flexible to include new and exciting businesses that we want to see. Next slide. The zoning takes additional steps to also support a more lively and active public realm by introducing new dimensional and change of use restrictions. These include measures to reduce the size of large blocks, a requirement for ground floor outdoor amenity space for large lots to expand the public realm, and the limit on the amount of ground floor blank wall a building can have. The zoning also mandates that upper story stepbacks must be at the height of adjacent historic buildings so that they both reduce impact on adjacent sites as well as wind impacts on the public realm. Projects downtown will also be subject to lower design review thresholds starting at 20,000 square feet to ensure that projects continue to comply with the new downtown design guidelines. Next slide. Finally, the zoning is designed to protect downtown's treasured green and open spaces, particularly the Boston Common and Public Garden. The zoning further reinforces state shadow regulations, directly including references to state law, as well as critical airspace limits in the code. Again, state shadow regulations supersede and are stronger than zoning, as they can only be changed through action at the state level. It is important to note that these zoning changes do not allow heights up to 700 feet outside of where they were already allowed, or the area outlined in yellow on the map, which is hard to see, but it's the area around Washington and State Street, where buildings are of heights over 500 feet, representing the scale of the financial district today. Next slide. In addition to introducing the new Sky and Sky Low DT districts, the amendment makes smaller map updates to ensure consistency with these new zoning changes. These include removing the Greenway Overlay District, moving portions of the existing Midtown Cultural District Bay Village Protection District that closely resembles the Bay Village neighborhood structurally into the Bay Village Neighborhood Shopping Subdistrict, and adjusting the boundary of the Alt Entertainment District to align with the parcel boundaries and remove it from the Chinatown Neighborhood District because there are no adult entertainment establishments there today. Next slide. Together, these amendments support new opportunities for new growth, investment, and housing downtown at every scale. By reducing outdated barriers to businesses, small and large, strengthening preservation of our most historic streets and structures, and enabling new housing, both in new development and office to residential conversions, we are building a downtown that is more vibrant, livable, and inclusive for generations to come. This concludes my my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Questions or comments from the board?
I'll start, Madam Chair. Thank you, Andrew, and to your team. I know this has been a long time coming, and I wanted to thank the residents who are in this room and those who aren't on this room who've been deeply involved in this process. I respect the work and the passion that's gone into this conversation. I've been around a while. I was around in 2017 as a member of the Boston City Council when it came before us the vote to dispossess the old Winthrop Square garage. I supported it proudly then, as I do now, because I knew the trade-off would mean tens of millions of dollars for parks, for affordable housing, et cetera. And that's largely what spurred the conversation that we're in right now with the downtown plan. I will be supporting this amendment and this zoning petition for very similar reasons. I believe that this is the right thing for the city. I believe that in the time that this process began 8 years ago, we have seen a pandemic that no one saw coming, and that's really had such a profound impact on the downtown neighborhoods. I don't need to tell the folks in this room, you live and see it every day. But using new tools to help spur development, to help spur more housing, to help spur more activity with protections in place that will allow for historic preservation, I think is a well-balanced and thoughtful plan. And that's why I will be supporting these. So thank you, Andrew, and thank you to the folks who have come out tonight. Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, through the chair. And thank you, Andrew, and thank you, your team, for all the work you've done. Probably like 6 to 7 years of going through this process. Just a lot of work, and I commend you and I commend the mayor for everything they've done for this. For myself, being with labor, the creation of jobs for young men and women that are coming out of the trade schools, such as Madison Park, or the pre-apprenticeship programs like Youth Build. This is an opportunity for them to be able to live and afford to stay in the city of Boston. And also just the men and women that are part of the construction move as well. Post-pandemic, you know, we've seen the foot traffic in the downtown Boston area, you know, dwindle. And like you said, with new tools such as office conversions, and then even the office to dorms conversion with Suffolk Law going on right now. This is something that can revitalize the downtown area, which is, you know, the engine for the city of Boston. And I definitely think I will be approving this project as well.
Additional questions, comments?
Yeah, I think clearly there's strong feelings on all sides of this particular proposal. We see them all. We've seen the hundreds of comments. We see the electeds letters. We've seen the letter this morning from Mayor Wu and Director Shen. For me, this, you know, it's not perfect, but it does thread through an incredibly complex array of variables and factors, and I think it's a good approach. And so I thank the staff for all of the work that you've done. I think it's been an amazing effort on the part of the staff. I thank all of you that are participating even if tonight's result is not the result that you want, I hope you will keep participating. And I hope that the city will continue to engage in a really productive way, even as this framework goes forward. You know, it's critical that we continue to test it as we go with the community. And I think that, you know, the department is prepared to do that, and I hope you're really will follow through on that. Thank you.
I also commend the staff for the work that you've done on this. I think it's been extraordinary, really, and very complex. I do wonder what the implications would be for tabling this for 1 or 2 meetings in order to address the range of issues that have been brought before this board, which apparently still remains somewhat unresolved. I know we're working in a difficult and complex time for development, financially and otherwise. And yet I'm taken by some of the responses that we've heard that suggest that there may still be areas of refinement that could be addressed in a short time period to make the overall plan more acceptable to the communities that are going to be impacted. So I'm curious as to what the implications might be if this were to be deferred for a short period.
I think as many have noted, this has been a very long and extensive process in which we put in a lot of time, especially this year, on the release of 3 different drafts of the zoning to work with different stakeholders to find a balanced approach, listening to both small business owners, property owners, preservation stakeholders, and residents. And we really feel this strikes the strongest balance between what we've heard and also the critical needs that we see as being in many ways time sensitive for downtown, as we've continued to see the barriers for projects like office to conversion projects, as well as small business zoning hurdles each year.
And how is that impacted by the timing of a vote now?
In terms of
you know, I think the first draft of this zoning was released over 1.5 years ago. During the time that we have been considering refining, working with stakeholders to improve this zoning, we've had 8 small businesses spend time at the Board of Appeal. That's about 6 to 9 months for each one, so at least 4 years of permitting delay time to get people into needed vacant retail spaces downtown. There's a 70-unit office residential conversion project going to the Board of Appeal next month that were the zoning to pass would have avoided that 6 to 9 month process. And, you know, everyone in this building is working hard each day to work expeditiously to get more projects in the office residential pipeline, which, as you all know, has an expiration date because of the need to really get those projects going and because of the tax incentive. So we do feel a lot of urgency around particularly what this means for small businesses, for those office residential conversions that we see are really timely and overdue. While simultaneously knowing that any large-scale development that happens as a result of this zoning over the long term is going to go through extensive community vetting and processes through Article 80, including coming before you as a board. So, you know, I think for me, the urgency is really in those small businesses and those office residential conversions. That's where we see that.
Could you elaborate on what those Article 80 provisions might be? I mean, if this board were to approve this proposal in its current form, what is the next layer of community input that would be possible?
So immediately, they would have the opportunity for direct input at the zoning commission next month, where there would be a full public hearing held on the item, and I think that's very important to highlight. Anytime we bring an item that we know there's significant interest before the zoning commission, we plan to hold a very long meeting to ensure that everyone can directly participate in the item. Through the Article 80 process, right, so I'll start with the large project, Article 80B. They would go through the full impact and community impact analysis as well as the community process. So our project managers would post all of that information publicly, hold all of the public meetings that they hold for any 80B project, hold multiple public comment periods, and do the incredibly detailed analysis of impacts that happen on any project. So every portion of building design in downtown that is particularly relevant to the issues of shadow and wind and the way that those impact adjacent buildings in the public realm. So much of that analysis is so site-specific to what a building is designed to be and what it's next to, that Article 80 process, through having its, I think at this point, 22 different components of analysis, will in a really rigorous and technical way look at each component of that. The second one, right, in the areas that have PDA eligibility, would it be if a project came before you for an ADC review or a PDA? It would need to go through the full process, including public comment period, all of the impact analysis that happens in the ADC process, a public hearing before you hear at the board when you adopt a PDA, as well as at the zoning commission to carry that forward. So that is a very even more measured process to lay that out. And then finally, one of the things we're excited about in this zoning is we think it probably creates more pathways for ADEs, the small projects, to happen, which generally haven't happened in downtown because they get caught up at the Board of Appeal. It's felt too convoluted. So those will go through the same process of site plan review, design review, impact analysis there, come before you as the board for a vote, including the public meeting and public comment period there. So part of what we've done in this zoning is try and really carefully identify elements that, because they represent a performance standard, because they represent something that is incredibly site-specific and about evaluating impacts on neighbors, where we're really confident in the rigor of the Article 80 process as a key part of being able to continue to bring this forward.
And finally, I'm curious as to what kind of feedback you've received on the proposal from the development community.
I think like all zoning proposals we bring forward, I think sometimes everyone's like, if no one's happy, then maybe the staff is happy. Someday I'm gonna have a proposal that makes someone happy. I think the business community does see what this means in terms of streamlining small projects. It does provide really clear expectations for what we want downtown, right? It sends a very clear message that we want you to come to us with residential proposals. Some of them are concerned about that, right? Just either because they currently own a large commercial building or dream of in the future being able to develop, a commercial project downtown in the future. But we have received positive comment that while I may disagree with that policy intent, it's very clear and laid out in the zoning that it's there. So I think that's of the mixed feedback we've received from the development community, that's probably the most prevalent strain of it. Yeah, and I also think it's really important to that point of small projects. One of the things we're most excited about in this zoning, and you asked about future projects. The one I feel the most urgency on is that there is currently a teenage social service provider in downtown who is looking to build supportive housing units that would have to go to the Board of Appeal were this zoning not to pass, who feels a lot of anxiety around what that means in terms of a potential abutter challenge or legal process, who, if this zoning moves forward, will be able to immediately move forward with zoning approvals in the next funding round and get one of the most essential uses we need in downtown in place. So when I think about the types of projects that are going to immediately show up in the next couple of years, it's things like that. It's those types of needed projects, and it's the small businesses.
Thank you. I do want to recognize that we have Counselor Mejia who is on, and as a courtesy, as I did to the other elected representatives, I offer you, Counselor Mejia, the floor to give your testimony.
Good evening, members of the board. You know that when I show up here, it's something that I deeply care about because I make it a practice to not participate in development projects because I believe deferring to the district counselor is always the best practice as an at-large city councilor. But this particular project that I'm here to speak on behalf of, I know that Councilor Pepeng is also in opposition of it. We know
Are
that.
we on 990?
Yeah.
Is this for 990 or is this for downtown zoning?
Well, so I'm gonna.
Are you gonna do both? Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.
That's okay?
No, yeah, it's totally cool. I'm good with it. Yeah.
So I think that the downtown project, while I have not been in the weeds, I have heard from a lot of constituents that they're not happy with the process. They don't want to turn Boston into New York, and having lived in New York, I know what they mean by that. So I think that there's an opportunity for us to pause and reconsider. And I would like to speak on 990 if that's possible as well.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so we've heard from thousands of residents across the city, and they have sent comments, they have called, they've come to meetings over the last 5 years, who have been in deep opposition of this project, you know? I know that we have a lot of work to do when it comes to community engagement. And, you know, we're here talking about the issues of climate. There's some concerns around utilizing Crane Ledge as housing and all of that. And I understand both the need for housing and the need for development, but I also want to be super mindful that folks are concerned about the massive heat island after, 14 acres of land will be cleared out and blasted to make way for a suburban style gated community that does not belong, from what I understand, in Hyde Park. This land should be purchased by the city of Boston to remain in conservation, and that there are financing options that we can buy it and we can monetize the CPA and the float green bond partner with the legislature and the city of Boston. We must save this land in the time of climate crisis. And I'm just really encouraging the board to not vote to build this project, to pause and to put our heads together so that we can come up with a funding strategy to make Jubilee and the developers whole while we're also saving Crane Ledge Woods. And, I'm really hopeful that we can get to a place where we need to be. And I also understand the competing interests. But at the end of the day, we really need to stand firm in what this moment is calling for. And that is for us to really think outside the box, to really engage community in ways that make sense. It is not lost upon me that it's been 5 years and we're still having the same conversation. And I'm really hoping that the BPDA will pause and reconsider. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Gracias. Okay. So I think in fairness and recognition, right, of all electeds who came to speak here today and the concerns and and everything, I do want to have a response right from the agency of these concerns around the risk to Boston Common, to the public garden, to historic preservation, affordable housing. There's obviously we're weighing lots of different comments here, right? And I just want to have a response to those oppositions and in what again, I'm trying to understand what the presentation is and then what the concerns are coming, right? Because I do see some some great things in there that I think address some of these issues, but I want clarification, right? So please, somebody, whoever that should be, just to address that very real opposition, and understanding of why we think that, this does more good than harm, right? Specifically to Boston Common, Public Garden, the Shadows, affordable housing, and then the building height turning into New York-like situation, right? Because again, I'm seeing heights in various areas on the map, so just clarification on those points, please.
Great. And Brigitte, I'm going to request if you don't mind going back like 2 or 3 slides to that map that shows the gray and the blue. So keep going back. So I think one of the first questions you asked was about shadow on the common. And I think one of the critical things that we have done in this zoning is make sure that we are directly referencing anytime we're talking about building height in the zoning code, the state shadow regulations that set very clear performance criteria for what type of shadowing is allowed in this area. And so we've really, as we were tasked with by the state legislature in 2017, we've really endeavored to directly empower those regulations and directly clarify how important they are to the process. The second piece of shadow, it's about the common and the public garden. It's also about our other public spaces like Post Office Square, other areas of the city. And that is where we find that the Article 80 process is really crucial, because that lets us look at specific aspects of building design and orientation to measure any impact of shade or shadow, or conversely, on the other side, priorities for sunlight, where we can really identify on a site plan why that's important. And we're very confident as a department that we have full sort of power to analyze those impacts through Article 80 and achieve the outcomes that are needed in downtown. For this, to protect our public realm, not just in the public common and public garden, but on all of our downtown public spaces and streets. The second piece you asked about was affordable housing. So inclusionary zoning, Article 79, everyone's new favorite article in the zoning code, sets a really clear requirement that inclusionary zoning needs to be provided on site. So the expectation and the idea there's not a guarantee it's provided on site, that it has to be provided on site. You are only allowed to go through an exception process, very sort of carefully, a special exception to not provide it on site, and it has to be located within a ½ mile of the supposed project. So unlike some of the projects recently in downtown where affordable housing and IDP contributions went to other neighborhoods, it would need to be directly invested in projects in downtown. The types of limited opportunities where that might be desirable include ones where some mix of off-site inclusionary zoning might be able to fund lower affordability levels than is required through inclusionary zoning, such as leveraging that funding into an all-affordable project that's an office to residential conversion to reach those lower AMIs than the 60% that's required in inclusionary zoning. As a city, when we look at downtown, when we looked at the economic analysis that helped inform the office to residential conversion incentives, we saw really clearly that downtown is one of the places where we think our inclusionary zoning in Article 79 can really deliver those units at scale. And that is a really essential part of what we need for a vibrant and thriving downtown. The second piece is that affordable housing downtown takes a lot of different forms. It's not just inclusionary zoning, it's the shelters, it's trying to expand the amount of supportive housing and other models downtown, and it's lodging houses in the ways that help might meet need. This zoning, in addition to sort of legalizing the physical form those buildings will have, so they don't need variances there, directly says those uses are desired as part of our downtown and allowed. So we think that's a really important part of what this zoning plan is advancing for affordable housing. I think your next piece was about historic preservation. Yeah. And we're really grateful to our colleagues at the Office of Historic Preservation, including the director, Kathy Kotoridis, who worked very directly with us on refinements to this zoning map. They also worked very directly with us on the approach to the limited enabling of PDAs to make sure we were thinking of that tool as a way to directly invest in historic preservation downtown. They share our sort of vision that, as you see in the design guidelines that Andrew brought forward, that thinking about preservation alongside development is top priority for downtown and something important to every possible project downtown. They also really helped us think through and ways that we strategically set the dimensional regulations of these zoning districts. So they're aligned with existing buildings, and because of ways that we've created provisions that allow extending nonconformities, they create incentives to retain smaller historic structures as part of larger development that may occur. So we're really trying to make sure we're tackling this on kind of all fronts that we have possible in zoning. The Office of Historic Preservation and their team has also been working on what are the non-zoning tools to make sure we're continuing to advance historic preservation downtown. And one of those was the recent landmarking of the corner bookstore within this study area. So it's always important that we're pairing the policy options and tools we have that are not zoning along with zoning changes, and have been coordinating to do that. And what was your last?
The last was the we're turning into New York, building heights everywhere.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
So I think one of the most key things I would highlight is in the vast majority of the area we're rezoning, these heights are not changing. They are the same maximum height that they are currently, and that's because of the FAA height limits from Logan really have been a hard cap on the possible heights downtown, and that's true, they will continue to be. So in that core of the financial district, the area where you would see the potential for tallest towers of New York, these are the exact same height limits that are in place today, currently. I also think right alongside all of the regulations that we put in, New York's approach to downtown development is very sort of form neutral. They have a FAR cap, they trade on it. They also just passed some changes in Midtown focused on encouraging residential development. We've taken a very intentional strategy with some of these form requirements to make sure that we're building in space at the ground level to get that finer grain, and the preservation of existing buildings, as we see, is incredibly Boston specific and part of what it means to be Boston's downtown.
Thank you. And then the last one that I did not throw in there is the concern around community process, right? And having opportunities for input throughout, throughout this however many years, but also, specifically more recently in these like amendments and series of amendments. And it's a lot to be reading all of this stuff, but we've been, keeping up with all of it. The various drafts that have happened, the iterations, and what compromises or how has input that you've taken resulted in any change in those drafts? Just tell me more about that, right?
Yeah. So I think one of the most important ones is that we made significant, over the course of these drafts, refinements to the proposed zoning map that significantly expanded the mapping of the Skylo district across all of sort of the area bordering Boston Common and Boston Public Garden. That also meant meeting and talking to stakeholders about specific properties like the Boston Park Plaza and moving that into the Skylo district. So it's very that map evolved really directly in response to comment received from residents. Some of the changes that Andrew identified in the other map changes, like moving property into the Bay Village neighborhood district or into the Chinatown neighborhood district, those were directly in response to requests and comments that we received from those neighborhoods and those stakeholders. The really big changes are the way that the incentives are now very starkly targeted at residential development on the Washington Street corridor. And again, very much focused on the east side of that corridor as you face in the financial district. So we went from a use neutral proposal that would have allowed height, whether what project was a residential project, a mixed use project, a hotel, an office, to a project where height, that's similar to some of the other buildings in that corridor is achievable only for predominantly residential project. An office proposal in that corridor would now be limited to 200 feet. So that was a very big change and a very clear policy direction in the sort of statement of in areas where we're adding height, what we think is important to achieve.
Okay, thank you. I do want to, thank our elected officials for being here to be the voice for your constituents, and grateful for the feedback that you shared, as well as like the presence of constituents here today. I also want to acknowledge for the public watching, who may have only heard comments from the elected officials today. The board receives hundreds of comments, attends these meetings and hears them, including comments and of support, right, that were not reflected today in the comments, and that's okay. Or no, there were some. There were definitely some with counselor, a few counselors, and so we are balancing that and taking all of those into consideration of all of this holistically. So that's just for what it's worth. But I do want to let you know that we take the feedback seriously. I'm grateful and have observed the process over all of these years, and observe the process and the engagement with the community, and the expectation of the type of like dialogue and back and forth and compromise that I think really does exemplify what the best of the city, even if we don't agree on absolutely everything, because we're going to see some other projects today that don't exemplify that, and that's for a later agenda item, and that's for that. But I just want to acknowledge and thank everyone for their participation. And I'm still sorry, sir, there is no public comment on this. No, there really isn't an opportunity, and I have to maintain order. And I just with respect, yes, I'm sorry. I do have to abide by the rules of engagement here, and my responsibility to maintain that in order. But I deeply respect, hear, and read all of it. We all have had more than a front row seat in throughout this process, throughout this 7-year process of how it is. So with that and everything, I am calling for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I am calling for 2 separate votes. There are 2 items. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read the first item, and then call for a motion, and then read the second one. So item number 18, request authorization to adopt an amendment to Plan Downtown that includes downtown historic context design guidelines to guide the design, development, and review of projects that enhance downtown's unique and historic fabric. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Nay.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 19, also related to this, request authorization to petition the Zoning Commission to adopt text amendments for Article 8 and new Article 31 to establish skyline districts, and adopt text changes throughout the zoning code to ensure Article 31 and Article 8 are reflected consistently, and adopt map amendments to zoning maps 1A, 1C, 1G, 1N, and 1H to implement zoning recommendations from Plan Downtown. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let the room clear. Again, thank you for your attendance, participation. We're actually gonna take, oh, look, yeah, it's time. Okay, we're gonna take a brief 5-minute break, so we'll resume at, let's give it a couple extra. Let's resume at 6:10. We'll resume at 6:10.
Hey, how are you, Ed? Good to see you.